What's going on, everybody? Joining me today on the Andrew Thompson Interviews YouTube channel is a man you may remember as Luther Ward from his time under the WWE banner, but he's also a very well-traveled wrestler and the founder of OTT in Ireland, Joe Cabray. Joe, thank you for taking the time, man.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. There are a number of things I did want to talk to you about. But firstly, how have you been doing since the pandemic began? Has everything been okay, mentally, physically, like everything okay with you?
Yeah, I think like everybody, it's just starting to get old at this point, and I'm just really looking forward to getting back to coaching and getting back to just putting on live events again. Hopefully we can do it real soon. It's something that I've really, really missed.
Definitely, I'm right there with you. I think
I'm
we
sure
all.
you,
Oh, you
yeah, I'm
good?
sure like you miss going to live shows as well. Like,
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I miss the thrill of joining in with the rest of the people in attendance, just having a good time, and of course going with friends and just enjoying the wrestling overall, man. And then getting to interact with wrestlers is always a good time. I think that's something that's sorely missed right now in pro wrestling. But it kind of seems like things are. I don't want to necessarily say getting back to what they were, but it's starting to seem like things in the world are starting to ease up a little bit as far as restrictions and whatnot. But just jumping into it here, just tell me, how did you become involved in wrestling and sort of guide me and the people who are listening, how you eventually became, I mean, how that eventually led you to founding OTT.
oh, that would be a long story, but I'll give you the kind of the short version of it.
Okay, cool.
Um, like maybe 15 years ago, there wasn't an Irish wrestling scene. So in order to build it, we had to create a wrestling school. So about 15 years ago, we created a school in Dublin, and we got some of the first Irish wrestlers trained up. There was also another school that kind of opened around the same time as my school. That would have been Finn Balor and Becky Lynch would have trained there, and Sheamus would have trained at my school. So, I think Irish wrestling just kind of hit the ground running, and that was kind of my kind of opening to the world of professional wrestling, I suppose.
Right, and I'm sure running a wrestling promotion, like let alone starting one, is not easy at all. Like, were there, like, when you first began your journey as a promoter, like whether you have some like initial doubts up there, or was it just you just gonna go all in and put all the chips on the table and let whatever happens happen?
Um, I think, we got the school open, and I was kind of spurred on by just the energy of everybody that was training there.
Mm.
There was so much energy, and it was kind of strange as well because the group of guys were all making their debut at the same time. So there was just so much energy, and then after the first show, it was kind of like we have to keep going. And that would have been under the banner of Irish Whip Wrestling, which I'm not too sure if they actually run too much now these days. But that would have been my first, yeah, as I said, my first in professional wrestling.
Now, just going back to your in-ring career for a minute, I did want to ask you, why did you eventually end up departing from WWE?
Um, so I had been promoting shows throughout Europe, and if you remember, around Europe, we had a big economy crash,
Yeah.
and I was kind of at a crossroads. Do I just kind of leave wrestling, or kind of get a shoot job, I suppose?
Mm.
And I decided I was going to try and get to WWE. But at the time, I was quite late, kind of when I got signed. I was 31 when I got signed, so I kind of knew I needed to make it out of developmental as fast as I possibly could and onto the main roster, and because of my age. And I just had so many setbacks. I ended up getting two concussions, and um, you know, I just didn't, those concussions kind of just set me back so far that I just became kind of I kind of lost my passion, I suppose, a little
Right.
bit. The concussions kind of just derailed me so much, um, and I missed home, and a whole other host of things just made me say, like, I kind of want to probably try and do something else in wrestling at the to be at that time what wasn't the place that I really wanted to be. I suppose I was unhappy. I was unhappy, and
Mm-hmm.
I was also unhappy as well about my own performance, the setbacks of two concussions. I thought I was going to go there and just absolutely, blaze it.
Right.
and the concussions just really kind of put, a spanner in the works that I personally couldn't get over, I suppose.
It seems like your reasons for you leaving are that just rightfully justified. It seems like a conjunction of things. Like, of course, being away from home, and then on top of that, you're dealing with injuries, and I think over the years, like, concussions have become a thing that have really been taken more seriously than they were prior. And I feel like a lot of promotions, a lot of companies, even the NBA, NFL, like, I feel like now they're taking these things so much seriously, versus how they did maybe 15 or 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago. And I feel like just hearing your story and hearing how you felt, it does seem like things have, well, it is, things have greatly changed, vastly changed. And it did seem like, from what you said, like just a mental struggle, man. It just like, you, of course, the concussion, and then just that inner self-doubt of you critiquing yourself, because I feel like nobody can critique us harder than our own selves. So I feel like that's just kind of like the gist of it, and then eventually that's what led to you leaving. But I think you ultimately, like, everything, hindsight being 2020, I think everything worked out just fine. That just from my perspective.
Yeah, I was kind of lucky. It was quite daunting coming back in 2014 and just kind of starting all over again, because when I left to go to Florida, there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to go there and, climb to the very top. And then just to have the two concussions, it just set me back so far, and I just became despondent, I suppose.
Mm.
Just wanted to come home at that point.
I say that. So when you came home, did you get right back into wrestling, or did you like kind of ease back on it because of the concussions?
When I came back, I was pretty much over the concussions,
Okay.
and you know, when you leave WWE, you have a bit of a buzz about you. So I
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of tours. I went to, I wrestled in Germany a few times, Belgium, just kind of around kind of Europe, and did a tour of Qatar, Pakistan, just started to enjoy wrestling again, I suppose. Not that I didn't enjoy wrestling in WWE, but um, just
Found your.
being able to,
I was,
just being
I,
able,
I was just about to say you found your passion again. That's what it sounds like.
yeah, yeah, essentially. I was just quite happy to. I love traveling. That's a big part of the draw for wrestling for me, is to be able to travel, and just to be able to do that again and entertain was kind of amazing for me as well.
Now, literally just a few days, before Scrappermania 6, the pandemic shut the world down. I know that just had to be like the biggest gut punch, man, because that card was stacked and it was loaded, and I saw a lot of buzz online for it, and a lot of people were excited for it, including myself. I know that just had to be like just a like I like it just a like fist clenching type moment right there, like when you found out that you had to put the event on hold.
Yeah, it was crazy because I remember that week leading up to it. I remember saying to some friends, I don't know, there might be a chance here I might have to cancel this show.
Mm.
But it was just amazing inside a week as to how rapid it all just grew. And as I said, even though the week previous I was saying I might have to cancel, in my own mind, I didn't really believe it.
Mm.
But it just escalated so fast that we just had no other choice. The safety of everybody was kind of the priority, I suppose. But yeah, it was it was such a killer. When you've booked all the hotels, the venue,
Oh my god, yeah.
flights, the security, you've put so much money into advertising and it all, we also had an amazing hype video as well that kind of just went to the side. And yeah, it was a massive blow, but at the same point, I was just completely overwhelmed by the response. I think there were so many people that thought that this might be this might be something that could sink OTT, and it could have. But
Mm.
fans setting up GoFundMe's and all that, and we had an outpour of just fans just buying merchandise, and it's really helped us survive this pandemic.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like one thing I was saying, like when the coronavirus thing first started, specifically speaking about the pro wrestling business, was like, and I'm in no way, shape, or form a promoter, but this is just like common knowledge that you could just like you hear about it, you learn, like, it's like when you hear about it from a promoter's perspective, it's like, man, like they book the hotels, they book the flights, like you can't get that stuff back. You know what I mean? Like there's no stuff that comes back with that, and that's a big loss. And there's a lot of promotions who were really, really affected by this, and it could have taken them out essentially. And just to see like so very little of them like actually be taken out by this thing, and they're still holding on and like planning for the next couple of steps. I think that's a real solid sign for the pro wrestling business as a whole, that it like this thing that essentially could have done a lot more damage didn't do as much damage as far as like the promotions go.
Yeah, and I think it's also an amazing show of just how much the fans embrace independent wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
that they are doing everything to try and help these independent promotions and wrestlers. It's been pretty hard on wrestlers that don't have contracts
Mm.
to survive this pandemic as well. But the fans have just been amazing in terms of just the support, not just for OTT, but to independent wrestlers as well. It's just been really overwhelming, I suppose. You don't realize how much OTT means to people until something like this happens. And that really kind of it kind of helped me, it spurred me on, I suppose.
And then the main event of that Scrapper Mania show was of course going to be the OTT World Champion David Starr versus AEW's World Champion Jon Moxley in a non-title bout, and like that the prospect of that match was really exciting for a lot of people because of the potential. Just from the fans' perspective, the quote unquote business opportunities that we see of what could possibly happen in the future. Like, of course, Pac was going to be on that show as well, and he's also with AEW, and a lot of people were just excited about what, like, okay, let's say the Moxley Star match went just perfect, everything went fine, like, and us as fans, like, we look at that and we like, okay, that went great, so what could happen from that? You know what I'm saying? Like you get what I'm trying to like get at as far as like the fans perspective of
Yeah.
it, as far as like what could happen from that.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like storytelling as well, and
Mm-hmm.
what would have happened with the match, and what would the outcome have been, and what would have happened, and what were the plans, and yeah, I mean, I've spoken to Moxley, and he was equally as as devastated that the show had to be cancelled, and fingers crossed, he said that you know he really wants to try and get over at some point and do the match, so still quite hopeful of bringing that match to wrestling fans, I suppose.
All right. And speaking of Moxley, obviously seems like a very stand up individual. I was gonna ask you, did you happen to see the donation that he made to the OTT fundraiser? I don't think he wanted any credit for it. I think he changed his name once people found out that it was him that donated. But like just like it was a quiet donation, and just seeing like that obviously shows you like, backs up what you just said, is that he clearly wants to come and do the match, and he supports what you guys are doing over at OTT.
Yeah, just amazing. That's what I'm saying. Like, I was saying from the fans' point of view of just how overwhelming it's been, but then when you see somebody like Moxley kind of reaching out like that as well, just amazing. I mean, we did lose a lot of international flights as well, but to see him as well support independent wrestling as well, again, just shows that he's a top guy.
And just to make mention of this, because this is something that I saw from OTT about 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago, that actually meant a lot to me as a black man. I saw you guys via social media, stand in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. That meant a great deal to me, and only amplified my support to see that you guys were in solidarity with the movement and understood the overall definition of the Black Lives Matter movement, and didn't take offense to it how some would. You know what I'm saying? And that personally, just telling you that meant a lot to see.
Yeah, I think everyone is just kind of deflated,
Yeah.
of the world. We've just come through a pandemic, and then this has to happen. It's just, we kind of we all got our heads together and said, what's the best way that we could kind of help? So we released a really nice OTT t-shirt. I think it's a pre-order for now, and we're going to fulfill all those orders, and then it will go to I think it's the George Floyd's Daughters Foundation.
Oh wow. Okay.
But just in any way that we can support, I think it's important as well. But yeah, I think you'll agree. Like, what a kind of crazy up and down time it is in the world right now.
Definitely not. And just from, like I said earlier, just from a black man's perspective, like that's like big right there to see from you, and just from my personal perspective, like that's greatly appreciated to see a lot of promotions, especially you guys that's overseas, man, that I really don't like had to respond to this stuff necessarily, but it's good to see that it's so much solidarity like across the board from just a bunch of different races and ethnicities and everybody just coming together for this one cause. Unfortunately, like it had to like all this spark from a man having to lose his life unfairly, but it is good to see so many different people come together and band together from for this one period, and hopefully it continues on and it just changes the course of how people are treated across the world, just overall, man. But now, like one another thing that I recently saw on the OTT Twitter account is that you guys are planning to run the national stadium, or hopeful to run the national stadium in October. Like, and then we're starting to see like a lot of independent promotions starting to run back up. Like I think GCW has a show this weekend, and ICW New York has a show in July, and it seems like things are starting to pick up. Like, do you guys plan on sliding a show like in between now and that national stadium show in October?
So our issue as well is that we lost our training school as well to this
Mm.
pandemic, which was another massive hit. So kind of our priority right now is kind of looking at getting the school back open and running, and then just kind of seeing, we're again in a time of uncertainty, just seeing what kind of restrictions are going to be put into place. Is it going to be viable to run the national stadium? I'm very hopeful that it will be, but safety for the fans and our performers and staff, I think, is the priority. But it's just waiting to see what the landscape will be around October. It's even hard to put tickets on sale because you don't know, what kind of social distance will be required in venues at that time. So it's just a wait and see. But I'm really, really hopeful that we will be back in October, and if it is possible, I'd like to come back before October, if at all possible and safe.
And you mentioned the OTT Wrestling School. I know that's something that's just so crucial to like the development of new talents and the younger talents in OTT, and even people that just want to brush up on what they could do in the ring. Obviously a big bow, but like, have you guys had the chance to like scope out a new location, or is that something that you're really worried about like after you get live shows running again?
Again, like we just had an amazing like outpour from people who were equally disgusted that our school was kind of closed down during a pandemic, but and we were evicted essentially. But yeah, I mean, there's so many people that have reached out and said, um, I have a gym here, and if you guys are stuck, you can set the ring up for a while. But the idea, I think, for us is to probably get our own premises again, because we do have a lot of equipment. We've lighting rigs, and we've two wrestling rings and stuff that all needs to be stored. But right now, I'm kind of in the headspace of just trying to lock down a location, and hope that we don't get a second wave of this virus. Hope that all that goes well, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing that's going on right now is like it kind of feels like I mentioned earlier, it kind of feels like things are like easing up just a tad bit, but at the same time, like there's no like cure for the virus, so it's like it's really hard to like navigate this thing, and I can only like just me in my everyday life, it is kind of difficult to navigate, but I can only imagine as a promoter, like I know this is like really just like weird and like just like a very unsure time about how to navigate certain things. Like you want like you mentioned, like you want to slide a show like in between now and in October and the National Stadium show, but it's like you kind of like waiting on bated breath about it.
Yeah, because you don't know what kind of restrictions are going to be in place, what kind of social distancing. Can we get talent in from the States? Can we get talent in from Japan?
Mm-hmm.
Um, is there going to be quarantine issues where they have to quarantine because that's just not viable? Um, so there's just uh, so much uncertainty, I suppose. But I mean, if we can do it in a safe way, I'd love to be back in late August or early September. I'd love to get a couple of shows under our belts before October 31st, if at all possible, I suppose.
Right, and I know you guys had to postpone the homecoming event to January of 2021, and I know it's pockets of this that I'm not necessarily aware of, but like, have you guys like, or have you ever considered like going the empty arena route? I know live gate revenue, that's like real key, and as you mentioned, you guys have like a massive and loyal fan base, and also the OTT streaming service. I forgot about the OTT on demand streaming service. Or like, would a no fans thing do more harm than it would do good?
It's something that we've talked about, and again, as loyal as our fan base is, our roster is equally as loyal, and they're just looking forward to getting back into the ring. So, I mean, I'm sure if an empty arena show is possible, and with safety being the key, I'm sure the guys would jump at the opportunity to just get back in the ring and start, producing content again for the video on demand. The video on demand, OTT on demand, essentially just keeps us in business. If we didn't have that, I don't think we couldn't put on the kind of shows that we put on. So I kind of look at VOD as, yeah, you're getting a product, you're getting to see our catalog and other promotions, but you're also kind of just supporting OTT, I suppose, as well. But yeah, it's something we've spoke about, and we have to kind of look at the essentially we have to do a risk assessment and see if that's something that would be viable for us. But again, if it's possible, we're on board 100%.
And that OTT on demand service is like very clutch in my opinion. Like, and is actually a buddy of mine who wanted to start getting into OTT, and I know you guys had released the Scrappermania 5 show for free on the OTT service, and a friend of mine went and go watch that, and then he ended up subscribing to the service overall to access more of the content. So it just shows you like that back catalog of content that you guys have, like it's like really important. And like now you see like how important it is to have that catalog and just those string of shows like in your back pocket for, and nobody could predict a pandemic, but it's obviously good that you have it.
Yeah, and I mean, you have kind of like the who's who. I mean, everyone came through OTT, like Shane Strickland,
Mm-hmm.
Keith Lee, Matt Riddle, Mike Bailey. We've had the Young Bucks. So, I mean, it's a pretty impressive catalog in front of a rowdy Irish fan base, I suppose. So, yeah, if you can and you want to check it out, definitely check us out on OTTOnDemand.com. On the video on demand, we have Liger on our VOD, which is again amazing.
I know that's just like a big plus. Like, I know in that moment for you that just had to be a big thing, because that overall, like, of course that helps Scotty, of course, but it helps you overall to have this guy in your promotion, this young up and coming talent who you can say has defeated Jushin Thunder Liger, and like has that notch on his belt, and then for Liger to just be willing, to come to OTT, and for it to be his idea to want Scotty to have that win of this belt, that just says a lot more about Liger, honestly, as a person. So that's like, because a lot of guys who were probably are in his position, or at the status that he's at, probably would bat an eye at the idea of them losing to a 19-year-old. You know what I'm saying? And then for
Yeah.
Liger to actually want Scotty to have that and take that on to the next step is that's crazy, man. Like, in a good way. Like, that's really crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, like Liger, genuine, like he is the definition of a living legend. I mean, he's just, I don't know, it's just something about Liger that just screams like legend, an absolute legend.
It's the theme song. I think that's what it
Yeah, it's
is.
it's just everything. It's his mannerism, it's his mask, it's everything. You know, I think they've earned uh, the freedom essentially. To just give them free reign. And to be very honest with you, I'm very, very seldom disappointed. Anytime I've given talents that I feel confident in um, free reign, they almost always knock it out of the park. In terms of WWE, it's just, I suppose it's a different animal.
Mm-hmm.
Like the thing that when I went there, I had to get used to was the fact that, you have an agent watching a monitor who is linked up to the referee, and then the referee is telling you things that you have to do in the match.
Right.
So that can be very, very different for a performer to have that, and it can be a bit restricting as well when you're told, go to a rest hold because we're in an ad break or something like that. So, I'd say it's basically just a thing of there's a lot more restrictions, and there has to be as well, I suppose, in WWE because they're doing live TV and they're doing live pay-per-views. But I'd say it's that. But
one of the biggest surprises I remember from last year's Scrapper Mania was when Pete Dunne, Trent Seven, and Tyler Bate won the OTT tag titles. Obviously, those being three of NXT UK's NXT overall's just biggest stars. Like, was it hard to make that decision happen, or like was it just a matter of Dunne, Bate, and Seven, not necessarily being willing, but like the sort of, I'm just trying to figure out how to word this, but like as far as like, because I mean I know it can be trying at times, because I know certain wrestlers get pulled because they're under contract with NXT UK, and I've seen that happen across the board. But like as far as putting the tag titles on Dunne, I mean on Seven and Bate, and of course Dunne was in the match, but was that like a difficult decision or something? Something to make happen, because a lot of people in the crowd, they were like, that was probably like one of the biggest, well, it's probably the second biggest pop of the night on that show. Like people were like genuinely shocked that they actually won the tag titles.
yeah, I think because we had a stipulation that it was a loser leave town,
Mm-hmm.
and I think most people thought that at the time. I think WWE UK were really starting to push uh, British Strong Style, which is Trent, Tyler, and P. And I think people were kind of assuming that this was a loser leave town and it was going to be,
Their farewell.
yeah, their farewell essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and put our guys over a bit strong. But we kind of like were saying like it's just too obvious for that to happen. Um, Putting the belts on them was a gamble. I can't really tell you if it paid off in the end because we've had so many mishaps. Tyler has, people need. This is what I will say about with WWE is that people have to understand that WWE is paying Tyler Bate a contract,
Mm-hmm.
so that has to be his priority. So when WWE come calling, he has to go there because that's his priority, and and so it should be. And then I think there was maybe one or two times where he genuinely just had an injury and couldn't compete. But it's really unfortunate because that match, I was talking to Tyler Bate leading up to the show, and he was real pumped. He was like, I cannot wait to get back in front of that crowd. And he was like, there's nothing that's going to make me miss this show. I'm 100%. I'm so looking forward to this. And then, the pandemic comes in and, kills everything. But yeah, I do think that when we do get more than hype and Mustache Mountain in the ring, I do think it's going to be magic. And when we can pull it off, and I'm quite sure we will pull it off, I think it's going to be great as well for more than hype.
And I do really want to commend your production team, honestly, man. Like I'm very like into production and camera work and editing and putting together packages and stuff like that. Like you guys like kill it like every single time with these video packages, man. Like and one thing that like really got me hooked on OTT was just the mesh of feud, like the mesh feud between like David Starr, Walter, and Jordan Devlin, like how all those three were like intertwined in a sort of way. And like I always like really enjoyed the packages that came with that, and it just made you even more amped for the match. And I also like just the on top of like the production stuff, like I also like just really enjoyed the story overall between those three, and like just that slow build, man. And it just kept going and going and going and going until you eventually like got to Starr versus Devlin, and the Walter versus Devlin match was fantastic, and you just had this story of one man can't beat the other, so another man had to come jump in, and he finally did it, and of course he got jealous, and like it was just like, this is a fan, like that was like just chef's kiss right there, man.
Yeah, I think the great thing about OTT is that everyone takes so much pride in what they do, from our guys like Jordan and David Starr and Walter, and they all have pride in trying to go out there and do their absolute best. Then down to our, as you said, our production team, they've so much pride in terms of like putting out content that means something to people. But I mean, it's everything. It's everything in our roster, even our medics. Everyone just is proud to be on the team, and everyone wants to do the absolute best to try and make OTT what it is today. So we have a really good vibe and a really good energy, and it just meshes together and creates the product that you see today, which is amazing to see from where we started out, in front of 200 people to 2,000 people in the National Stadium.
And going back to the OTT streaming service, like I recently enjoyed the national showcase that you guys did on YouTube. I know that came from just the back catalog of matches that you guys had, but I really enjoyed like that whole the national showcase on YouTube, the stream that you guys did, like that catalog of matches just shows like the star power that has been brought in to OTT, like, but also in that same vein, like it really shows that, and not saying that you guys don't need those top tier talents per se, but it also shows that you guys are able to carry on with some of the homegrown guys and some of the guys who've been there like consistently throughout the way, and been able to put on equally as good shows. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the key to OTT as well is their, homegrown talent. As I mentioned to you there recently, wrestling isn't independent wrestling in Ireland is not, it's only been around for like maybe 15 years, 15, 16 years. It's quite new here. But when you look at the talent for our little country that only has a population, of 4 or 5 million, it's produced some of the top wrestlers in the world, from, Sheamus to Becky Lynch to Finn Balor. And now we have Jordan Devlin, we've Scotty Davis coming up, we've the More Than Hype guys coming up, and that's not even the talent that are, on shows yet. There's talent that is coming through that's just, breathtaking. So we're in a real fortunate position where our homegrown talent just keeps getting better and better and better. So we kind of like look out for each other in that aspect, and there's no egos. So it's just, as I said earlier, it's just a really good vibe, and it's a really great wrestling scene that we have in Ireland, and we're quite lucky. And we're quite lucky as well to have some of the loudest and craziest fans as well that just love independent wrestling.
And another topic I was really interested to talk to you about, what was the women's division in OTT. Like there's been like eight champions like in the past 4 years, and like each of them had like these lengthy title reigns, man. Like, and I'm a big fan of that. I don't like the like flip flopping of the title too often, but like each of them have had like 100-day reigns, 200+ day reigns. Like, is that key for you to establish the women's division in OTT, or to just have these lengthy title reigns and establish these competitors as legit champions, and then when they eventually do lose the title, it's going to be to a quote unquote legit threat?
Yeah, I think we want to make all our titles mean something. Um, I'm to be honest with you, like I think people would agree, like our women's division was a bit of a struggle starting off. Um, I just didn't want to put on a women's division that just wasn't to the standard of what OTT has become. So,
Right.
but I think, the last 2 years, I think we've really, you know, kind of worked hard on trying to get the women's title to the standard of the men's title. I always say it every year we run a show called Defiant, and it's my favorite show of the year. It's our all women's event, and I just love it. I think it's just, it's again, I'm all about like just really good energy. The locker room when it's Defiant, the fans are just rabid for it as well. But it's still going to be a key of trying to get our women's title as strong as possible. And one day I hope that our women's championship will essentially headline a major show for us. That's kind of like the goal at some point.
That's big, man. I think that's really big, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because just lastly to wrap it up here, I was going to ask you. I was going to try to get a quick exclusive out of you. I was going to ask you. So, so when you guys do run your first show back, hopefully it's soon. I was going to ask you. So what title is going to headline the first show back? I would assume it's going to be the OTT World Championship, or like as you put it, and just seeing that, like the admiration and the respect that you have for the women's championship and all your titles in general. But it's really good to hear you speak about the women's title as well. Like that was like that was like that says a lot to like just overall about how you guys want everything to be equal, and you want everything to be on the same plane. But no, again, I was gonna ask you like what title is gonna may headline the first show back.
It just depends. Like David Starr's our world champion. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to if there's still going to be travel restrictions in place. So it just really, really depends. You know, uh, right now, kind of like our focus is just trying to get shows on again. We haven't even thought about booking, in terms of booking right now. Still want to do the Starr and Moxley match, of course. Still want to do the British Strong Style versus More Than Hype. We still want to do the Amy Alonzi match. So hopefully we'll be able to get it done. Amy Alonzi and Sami Zayn. That was a match that, speaking of women's wrestling, like I think watch out for Amy Alonzi. I think she's going to be one of the next big things in female wrestling. She just gets it. Things just snap into place for her, and she's just amazing. Good again, just a great person as well to be around, but works works her ass off as well. So she's going to be the next, I think, one of the next proud exports of Irish wrestling. So watch out for Amy Alonzi as well.
For sure, man. That definitely will keep an eye on, and of course, for those of you who are subscribed to the OTT on demand streaming service, go get all the content. Go refresh yourself on everything that's going on. Go check out the last couple of shows that they did in 2020. Please do so. When they do eventually come back, you'll be all caught up on everything that's going on. And Joe, overall, man, I really do want to thank you for your time. This was great. This is a busy man, ladies and gentlemen. He took the time out of his day to come do this with me. So, again, Joe, thank you. And, anything you want to plug, man, merchandise, store links, YouTube, anything, social media, anything you want to plug, the floor is yours. I'll be sure to link everything in the description below this video.
I suppose, VOD or OTTOndemand.com. You can check us out there, but you can also just check out some free content that we put up on our YouTube channel. I mean, we've, as you said, the National Stadium Showcase is just a collection of matches from that venue. And we've also put up a show called Tivoli Gems, which was our old venue. It was a real kind of underground venue that all the wrestlers from around the world kind of wanted to perform in. And if you watch that show, you'll understand it's just a real compact venue that sometimes just got loud as hell. Kind of reminds me, it doesn't look like DCW Arena, but it kind of has that vibe off it. And we've other matches that we've just uploaded because I think we all need to bond together. It's being quarantined, we're all stuck at home and we're all looking for things to watch. But we've Minoru Suzuki versus Tim Thatcher up there for free on YouTube as well. So just go and check it out and hopefully just pass a few hours for yourself.
And you do not want to miss Suzuki and Tim Thatcher beating the hell out of each other. That is quite the sight, ladies and gentlemen. But once again, Joe, I do want to thank you for your time, man. Greatly appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Andrew Thompson of the Andrew Thompson Interviews YouTube channel and postwrestling.com. This is Joe Cabray, the founder of OTT Wrestling. Please go check out everything OTT. Go get caught up on everything. And, I guess we'll see when they come back. And when they do, best believe it's going to be a show. So, Joe, thank you again, and we're out.
Appreciate it.